Super Bowl winning head coach of the New Orleans Saints, Sean Payton, at Sean Payton on Twitter, joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Coach?
I'm doing well, Rich. Thanks for having me on.
No, you bet. Thanks for calling in. What does this back to work atmosphere feel like? What is it like when you're at the beginning of pushing that rock up that same hill, trying to get that Lombardi Trophy by the end of the day?
Well, it's that time of the year where, there's a lot of anxious players, especially the younger ones that are in now that are, wanting to start off on the right foot and give a good first impression. Yesterday we had the conditioning test for the rookie players and some of the injured players that came back early. But we get completely started next week, Tuesday, Wednesday. But the early report, is for us has always been for our rookies and our injured guys. And nonetheless, it's exciting to get these guys back. I think we got a good offseason, and I think so far the early impressions have been real positive.
Now, of all the rookies, obviously we could talk about your couple first-round draft picks, but it's that third-round draft choice, Garrett Grayson, that caught the attention of so many people in the media because he's a quarterback. And your quarterback is over that age of 35 that many people peg as the spot where you begin to get diminishing returns, despite Drew Brees being a first-ballot Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. Where do you see Garrett Grayson's development and Drew Brees' future, Coach? Where do you see that?
Well, I see Drew's future, first off, is immediate, bright, not anytime soon. I think the first thing to stress is the significance of having a young quarterback develop under a guy like Drew Brees and really being able to take advantage of just his weekly work ethic, his routine. And, you kind of go into each draft, and it was one where, there's one or two guys you kind of like maybe, and if they fall at the right spot, you select them, and if not, you go on to the next player. And Garrett's a player we had done quite a bit of homework on. He was in one of the All-Star games. We flew out for a workout, saw him, and had a couple private workouts with some other players. And, we felt like it fit at that pick. But, you're constantly trying to bring in the young, talented players into your roster. But in a specific case like this, you get, obviously, a developing player who's coming into a system and also a veteran player, like you mentioned, in Drew's case, has been a Super Bowl MVP with the credentials he has. Man, there's so much learned that just being in the same room, being on the same schedule, the work week. I mean, Drew will put these guys, the guys that are in that room that eventually make the roster. It's not an easy week, and I think that there's a lot gained from that. And so we as an organization, Mickey and I haven't looked at and said, all right, here's the timeline. Just haven't seen Drew 2 days ago. I mean, he's in phenomenal shape. He's training down in Southern California and takes great care of himself. So it's more the immediate, and it's an opportunity to bring in another young, talented player.
And, in the 12-plus years of NFL Network, Coach, the conversation frequently comes to coach-quarterback relationship. And in the 12-plus years, the one that everyone discusses as a model relationship and one that works because the quarterback and coach mesh so well, it's the one with you and Drew Brees. There's no question about it. That's number one. And here you go ahead and draft a young kid as well in an offseason where Jimmy Graham gets traded. At any point, did you call Drew up to just reset and just have a conversation with him about how you view him? And did you feel the need to do that? I'm just wondering about your relationship in that regard, Coach.
Well, listen, that's a great question. I think, number one, in order to have, and this is in football, this is with any good relationship, that line of communication has got to be clear, not muddied. And I would say in our case, it's outstanding. It would be very normal for me to call him or visit with him regarding something other than football, even possibly a date. And then at times it's after the fact. But, specifically when it came to a trade like Jimmy's trade or Kenny Stills' trade, I think shortly after the fact, it's getting back in touch with a player like Drew and saying, hey, this is what we're thinking now, and here's who's possibly coming in. And, there is that, ability to pick up the phone and talk to a player and understand, hey, not only is he vested, but it impacts him. And one of the things you don't really realize or appreciate is how much stress the quarterback position has with regards to training new players around him, whether it's tight ends, receivers, running backs, because we're all coaching on the field, and yet there's some specifics. And after practice, he's going to work, let's say, specific routes with Reggie Bush. 3 or 4 or 5 years later, it's Darren Sproles. 4 years later, C.J. Spiller, and it just continues. And there's a lot of stress that goes on the quarterback position with that. So, yeah, that communication, I think, between the two of us has been essential.
Sean Payton on the phone with me here from the Greenbrier in West Virginia, where rookie camp just started, and next Wednesday is reporting day for everybody else for the New Orleans Saints. So how will this offense look with Jimmy Graham in Seattle and now C.J. Spiller in the mix at running back? How is this, and Max Unger, let's not forget, you got yourself a top-flight center in that deal. It's not like you gave away Graham for nothing. How is this offense going to look for Saints fans?
Well, I think starting with the offensive line, we had some tough decisions to make with a couple veteran guards. We were able to re-sign Jari Evans. Ben Grubbs did a great job for us. We traded to Kansas City and then acquired Max. So we feel like at that position we're young. We obviously drafted with our first-round pick, Andrus Peat. He'll come in and push to play at one of the tackle positions, and yet we feel real good both about Zach Street and Tron Armstead. I think with C.J. Spiller, he was not a targeted player to start the offseason. He was a player who we felt would be a little bit north of where we were able to go financially, and right after that first week and a half, all of a sudden, we had a chance to set up a visit, bring him in. He will give us a lot of versatility and both in the running game and the passing game. When you get a chance to look at his film 2 years ago, 3 years ago, he's the fastest guy on the field half the time, and he can do a bunch of different things to hurt the defense. So I think we value that type of player. We feel like we've got stability at the running back position also with Ingram and Kyrie Robinson, some other players that have had played and had real good NFL experience. I think the one area that probably is the position where a lot of the fans, even local fans, don't know a lot about are some of the younger receivers we're excited about. And these are guys that came in, 2 of them last year as really as free agents, and have really done a good job. We saw them on the practice squad all off season. Mm-hmm. They've been here and trained. They both have good size. Brandon Coleman, Shantavius Jones. We really feel like those are just 2 of a handful of guys that are playing well at that position. Nick Toon has had an outstanding off season. Of course, Marcus Colston returns. Brandon Cooks. But we'll find a way. And each year we've looked at kind of, hey, where are our playmakers and how do we want to get them the football and the balance of us being able to run the ball. It starts with that, and we feel like that's important.
And Dennis Allen, former Raiders assistant, you brought him back in the fold. He's now your, senior defensive assistant alongside of Rob Ryan. What does he add to the mix, do you believe, for your coaching staff?
He was here, Rich, he was here for, all the way through our Super Bowl and on to I think through our 11th season, then he got hired by John Fox out of Denver, and then was named head coach shortly after that. So we've got a ton of experience working with each other. He and Rob have done a great job this offseason of really looking at our players and of trying to put in, the system that we feel like our team feels like fits the personnel. And so there's a little Felix and Oscar going on there with Ian Rob, because Dennis is, that guy who's everything in his room is just perfectly neat, the grease board, the whole 9 yards, and then like 2 doors down, it's the opposite. But I think they do a good job working together.
Before I let you go, Coach, there was a conversation I had with Bernard Goldberg, the HBO Real Sports correspondent, on a piece about youth sports and participation trophies and how pretty much every kid gets one now in youth sports in America, and how later on in life they find it more and more difficult to deal with adversity because they're told how great they are regardless of the place they finish in. I'd love to ask a Super Bowl winning head coach who also knows youth sports pretty well also, the question on the trophy culture in the United States and participation trophies. What do you think about it, Coach?
Well, I think this. I think the intent is noble and good, and I think that we as parents, and my mother was fantastic at praise, and man, just we're building self-esteem, and it's amazing how early that's being formed, and studies are, all the research is, those early formidable years, if you will. So I think that's important, and I think equally as important is recognizing achievement. And so, you know what, it's okay if a kid gets something and the others don't occasionally. And having had a chance to go back and in 12 coach my son's sixth grade team, you deal with the stickers. We have these little stickers after the game, and everyone wants these stickers for their helmets. The Ohio State Buckeye stickers, but these were the little little warrior stickers. And yeah, it was important for us to make sure that there was an effort recognized by each one of those 33 players. But someone might get 7, and someone might get 2. And yet we made sure we were recognizing what they did. And so just as important is the mission statement to begin with. Is this a competitive sixth grade team that we're playing everyone and we're playing to win? And so I'm going to get guys playing time but not equal, and there's nothing wrong with that mission statement at the beginning, and at least everyone kind of knows, hey, this is the plan. And everyone plays, we split time, or it's a more competitive league. So I think there's a fine line there. I think the idea is not wrong, and yet, we have winners and losers. And I think as the athlete and as the students get a little older, I think that it's important that they learn to deal with that. And, so some guys get 2 cheeseburgers, some guys get 1. and that's kind of the reality of it all.
Oh, my gosh. Coach, I appreciate the time. Thanks very much. Thanks for calling in. We'll chat down the line.
All right, Rich.
You got it. That's Sean Payton.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.